So this is the area that the bellhops sat. The bellhops, there were always 3 of them on duty 24/7 when the ship was on. They'd work 4 hours on, 4 hours off. There was 6 of them, and they would service the cabins, and that would be for anything that the cabin people would want. If you look over there, you'll see a board with lights on it. And even in 1907, all these rooms have a buzzer on them. And they would push the buzzer. One would mean that they want someone to come and empty the thunder mug under their sink. 2 would mean that they'd want the ladder. And 3 would mean that they'd want room service or something along that line. The bellhops tended to be local area young men, boys, mostly farm boys, the ones that I got to know. This is the Flowerpot Lounge, and this is where we would bring customers who were seasick because they couldn't see the horizon. And we would feed them these little cups of Bovril with soda biscuits. The idea being we'd get something on their stomach and they would feel better. In fact, usually it made them sick, and that usually made them feel better. So the staff referred to this place differently than the company. The company called it the Flowerpot Lounge, the staff called it the Swamp, for obvious reasons. We're going now up to where the male crew that worked in the dining room and the kitchens and the bellhops lived. There were 18 waiters. There was at least 14 cooks, and there were 6 bellhops, and we all lived in this one hallway. The cooks were all Chinese, spoke very little or no English. So it was a real lesson in multiculturalism back in the 60s to actually live and work with Chinese people who you didn't know how to communicate with. So if you follow me, I'll show you where we lived. You know, half the men on this place didn't have the same language as the other half. And we all worked together, but there was very little interaction. There was one, the head Chinese cook spoke English. We would deal with him, he would deal with his crew. And it was made no uncertain terms when you got the job that you never ever had a confrontation with the Chinese crew, because regardless who started it, the waiter got fired because they were a lot easier to replace than the Chinese cooks were. And I gather that over the years they had had problems with the Chinese cooks quitting en masse and leaving them with no cooks. So it just was easier to warn the rest of the crew not to cross the Chinese cooks, and none of us did. So in this first one, you'll see a mannequin in the bed, and the people that are volunteers here thought it would be cute. That's where I spent the summers in 1963 and 64, 50 years ago, right there.